This is the Mobile Tech Podcast, brought to you by worldpodcasts.com. Now here's your host, Tech Girl, Miriam Joire.
Hi, and welcome to the Mobile Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Miriam Joire, and today is Friday, August 3rd, 2019, 18. And I'm here with David Cogen, the Unlockr himself. Hi, David.
Hi, how's it going?
I'm all right. So just so you guys know, we're in Chicago, where we came for Motorola's event, which brought us the Z3 phone yesterday, and that 5G mod that is coming later that was announced at the same time as Z3. And you know,
G's.
yeah, and you know, the thing that I'm like, yeah, 5G and Z3.
Z3, yeah. It's my fault.
But you know, the thing is, this left us with way more questions than answers. A lot of us that are here, you know, Michael Fisher and a bunch of folks like Chris Velasco and Gadget, a whole bunch of us are here, and we all looked at each other, raised an eyebrow, and went, what the F is this all about? Because it doesn't really make sense. So I want to start with the phone, because I kind of want to go in the order that we saw the reveal.
Yeah,
right?
Makes sense.
So we walked into the event, and that was the first fail, was we walk into the room and the phones are there for us to play with. Normally, you do the presentation and then you unleash the media into a demo area where we have good light and we do our videos.
Right.
The light was sucky. And the phones were there, and there were very few, and we fought over them like we always do with our elbows.
Yeah, basically, right.
And so I don't understand why they, first of all, decided to set it up that way. That's PR 101 there. But the other thing was, within a few minutes we didn't have the specs at this point because they hadn't announced it. They hadn't sent us anything. And the embargo wasn't lifting until like 20 minutes later or something, right? And we were like, what is this Snapdragon 835? I think it was Ryan who discovered it was running Snapdragon 835.
Oh, I was going to say, how did somebody discover that? Because I remember you guys saying that to
CPUZ
me.
on it, sideloaded.
The minute they walked in the room, they ran.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds about right.
So what is your take on that? Like, what is the deal with them making what we expect, and from the naming convention, the past naming convention is a flagship phone with last year's processor?
I think Motorola has a bit of a... like different priorities when it comes to their phone. I think the only thing they really care about in this phone or in the Snapdragon platform is the modems.
Right.
And so I think the only reason they bumped up to the 835 is because they wanted a faster modem, which we'll get to why they wanted that later. Otherwise, I don't think they never put in the top of the line anymore. So like that's maybe just the way that their engineers think now. They're like, we don't care about the processing power. Our stripped down version of Android runs fine on the 6 whatever, and so blah. But you know what? We need the...
I think you're right. I think for me, it was more like, okay, I think a lot of us were confused because of expectations, right? It's like the Z3 Play came out. It was pretty much in line with the Play phones before it. Yep. Mid-ranger, a little overpriced, but mods, right?
Yeah.
But mods.
Yeah, mods.
And then we got the Z3. So we're thinking, okay, they're going to go all out. We knew it was going to be a wide aspect ratio display because the Z3 Play got it. We figured they would update the camera system from last year, which they actually didn't, it turns out.
Oh, they didn't?
No, somebody found out they're the exact camera
modules
as last year, which I have to look up. But I think it's two 12 megapixel. One is
it's
mono,
one monochrome,
one is
RGB.
color, right? But is 12 megapixel?
12
right?
megapixel,
Okay.
both of them, yeah.
So that's what I said in my unboxing this morning. I was right. Woohoo. Yeah. I have a bad habit of not checking specs.
Yeah.
And the other thing is it's a bit of a downgrade in terms of display because it's only a 1080p display, not a Quad HD 1440p.
Right.
Like the previous Z flagships.
Right.
So we see this phone. We didn't realize the display was only 1080p, but the display is fine. It's really it's
fine.
great.
It does
it's
the job, yeah.
18:9. It's 1080p. It's got rounded corners. It's OLED.
Yeah, right.
I have no issues with display. I never did on the Z3 Play either. So we get this phone with this amazing display, decent display, and then we get a Snapdragon 835, lots of head scratching. At this point, we don't know the price, right? You have to understand.
Yeah.
And then we get what? We get a dual camera system, and we didn't know anything about it. Turns out it's the same. Yeah. So now in retrospect, to me, this phone should be called the Moto Z2 non-force, like last year's Z2, what the Z2 should have been last year.
Yeah.
Do you think that's right? I mean,
yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't think you're right. Like there wasn't much that changed. I think, well, I mean, the other thing too is that I think it's very much in line with the Z3 Play spec-wise, isn't it? It's basically the same phone.
And that's what's interesting. It's like
except for the Snapdragon processor.
So the display is the same, but the camera system is definitely better on the Z3 because it's the second camera on the Z3 Play is just a dumb 5 megapixel fixed focus.
They don't even call it a camera.
Basically portrait assist, right? It's just a depth sensor.
Depth sensing module, right?
And that's really what it's used for. Whereas I think with the Z3, you're going to get true monochrome. Yeah. You're going to get the ability to do a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, totally.
And so that's fair. But really, if you look at these two phones side by side, the battery is the same, 35, I think, 100 milliamps.
I don't think it's maybe it's 3,000.
3,000? Okay, 3,000.
Yeah, I think.
See, I got
double check.
I got that wrong in my unboxing.
You get more battery, that's fine.
Yeah. And then it's, let's see, we've got a Snapdragon 835 and we've got only 4 gigs of RAM.
4 gigs of RAM.
Well, it's not a lot. It's not only, but it's for a flagship, for what we were expecting.
Right.
It's the same as the Z3 Play. And 64 gigs of storage is the same as Z3 Play.
Yeah. I literally think it's the same as the Z3 Play, except for the camera, the Snapdragon processor.
The second camera.
The second camera, exactly. Correct, not the first one. The price, which we'll get to, I guess. And the... no, that's it. I think that's it, literally. I think that's literally it. It's the Snapdragon, the dual cameras, and the price.
Yeah. And so basically the price, at this point we didn't know the price. So then they did the announcement, and the announcement really, they didn't even talk about the Z3. It's like, we have a Moto Z3, blah. And then they went right into their two partners, Verizon and Qualcomm, and talked about, and again, this is very exciting. I don't want you guys to think that the entire podcast is going to be a rant, but it is in a way. But at the same time, it's like 5G mod. And we knew this was coming. We'd seen leaks. We'd heard rumors.
Yep.
So that was actually super exciting because it means cool. 5G is going to be rolling out early 2019 on Verizon. Mm-hmm. So the good news is that the mod platform is a super great idea to add 5G to a phone. Like, if you think about it, if you remember the history of 4G, do you remember the Thunderbolt?
Yeah.
Do you remember how bad the battery life was? Yes. And how problematic the whole thing was? Well, we are going to be hopefully avoiding some of that with that 5G mod. And so the mod form factor for that was great. And then, of course, it's marketing and bragging rights, and we can talk about this in more depth. Yep. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. But basically, the mod I was really excited about because I'm like, okay, somebody's coming out with 5G. It's only millimeter wave as far as we know. I asked the question if the mod supported sub-6 5G. Mm-hmm. And they said that I got a non-answer. So we don't know.
Right. Because they might not know yet.
And apparently somebody asked, if the SIM card was removable, if there's a separate SIM card for the mod and it was removable. And there is a separate SIM card for the mod.
But it's not removable.
And it is removable if you take it apart. So what I'm saying is that it's not
user removable.
It's not soldered like an eSIM.
Correct.
But apparently it is in there. And so this is, and you know how it is with bands, right? In the same way as 4G bands, everybody got different bands at the beginning, and now eventually they kind of like unified, like AT&T and T-Mo and Verizon on 700 megahertz now, a little bit, each of the chunks of the spectrum.
Yeah.
I think with millimeter wave, 28 gigahertz, I think is what Verizon is going to start with, and 28 gigahertz, I mean, the chance of another carrier getting that spectrum is very low. So this mod is really a Verizon product. So not being able to remove the SIM, I don't think is a significant issue here.
No, because I don't think anybody use it anyway.
Because you're going to slap it on a phone that has a removable SIM anyway. So potentially the two could talk to each other and they could tie the provisioning to the SIM in the phone as well.
Yeah.
Like, we don't know exactly how this is going to work.
And again, I don't think they know how exactly it's going to work.
It's got a USB port on the it's got a USB port on the 5G mod.
Right.
And it's got a battery in it, 2,000 milliamp hours. So what's interesting to me is they hinted to me that you could plug it into a laptop via USB and get 5G connectivity.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
But I don't know if it's with or without the phone.
And well then, see, that's interesting because I would maybe buy just the mod and connect it to my computer.
But I don't think you'll be able to. I think you'll have to.
That's what I'm saying. Like, they're going to force you to get it. But
right. And so this brings up a whole other discussion we need to have about, like, this phone is coming out now in 2 weeks. I think it's shipping on the 16th of August.
Yep.
And it's $480, just in case we haven't mentioned the price yet, which also leads to so many more questions. And then this phone, by the time the mod exists for it, is going to be 6 months old or something, maybe. Yeah, and now the mod comes out, and why would you buy a phone that has last year's spec now in order to wait for 6 months for a 5G mod? And then why would you then, at that point, when they launch the mod, buy this old 1-year-old basically design, right?
Right.
So that's like, oh God, so many. So let's talk about marketing. I want to hear your theory. Tell your theory.
Yeah. So my theory is basically this is a marketing ploy, right? Not a ploy that makes it sound wrong, but I mean, it is kind of wrong. So anyway, but like they're calling this the first upgradable, the 5G upgradable device, right? But the truth of the matter is that this mod, even the way that they explained it, it works as its own little data thing, right? Like it literally is not, there's nothing in this device hardware-wise that is required for 5G to work or for this mod to work even, right? So once this mod gets its 5G, it just transfers it through the connectors on the back as a data connection. So technically speaking, it could work on any Motorola device.
5G modem,
right? And this is why, like you said, you can plug it into a computer as well, right? So they just won't let you. So I think basically just based on all of that, and like maybe they'll, and they did say this, we might allow other devices to, through a software update, be able to use this mod. But I'm going to guess no, right? Because if this whole thing is about this phone being the first upgradable 5G, blah blah blah, they want to push that. And I think it just came down to the fact that Verizon wanted to, they wanted to, everybody wanted to. Qualcomm as well.
And I don't blame them.
And I don't either. But
they worked really hard for this.
They wanted to say the words 5G today.
How many demos?
As opposed to 6 months from now.
How many demos did we go to at Qualcomm for 5G in the last 2 years?
A lot.
I mean, I went to Hong Kong
it's
twice.
super
I went
impressive.
to San Diego. It is amazing.
No, it's amazing what the Qualcomm people did for sure.
Absolutely. They created a tiny, tiny little antenna that's the size of two of pinky fingernails.
Yeah.
That is a millimeter wave array for 5G millimeter wave for the NR standard, and it's actually a beam-forming antenna. So it's sweeping back and forth, and this is not mechanical. You have to understand how beamforming works. It's an array of microphones, and you can. It's a Doppler effect, right? So that's why the beam works. Because it's such high frequency, just a distance of 2 centimeters, right, is enough for the signal to arrive with a huge delay on the other end, right, of the antenna. So you can measure that delay, and you can say, the signal is coming from this direction. I'm going to optimize the antenna to receive in that direction. And the sweep is basically, it looks for the best signal and it sweeps.
Yeah, once it finds it, it locks.
There's 4 antennas on the mod, one facing forward, which is why it has a fin or stub. Because phones will eventually have that in the front, somewhere in the bezel.
Correct.
So if you think your bezels are going away, think again, boys and girls. Unless you can put this under the display, it's going to be tough.
Which I don't think you can.
And you can. Millimeter is really line of sight.
It's really hard to get through. Right?
So then there's an antenna facing backwards, and there's 2 antennas on the side, basically where you grip the phone or grip the mod. And they switch antennas based on the one that has the best signal, and then they do the sweep and they find the signal, and that's how you get your 5G. And it's only millimeter. They don't have sub 6, which is below 6 gigahertz, which is where 4G and 3G fall today. You know, like thousands of megahertz and 2,000 megahertz. I think the highest right now is used by Sprint and by KDDI in Japan. It's 2,600 megahertz for LTE. So we're talking a half of the maximum you can do on sub 6, right? Because technically probably 6 gigahertz, close to 6 gigahertz is the max you can do with sub 6. So, and that does not need beamforming. That actually, well, it still does, but it needs regular antennas, and so that just works fine. What's interesting too is, I think you mentioned that, is there's an LTE advanced modem in the mod, which does 2 gigahertz LTE.
X24, I believe. If
I'm
not mistaken,
I believe it. And so then the X50 is for 5G, and then the X24.
Yeah, and then the X24 is for it's 2 gigabit per second, right? Like that's the LTE it can handle.
Right, and it has basically it's packed with antennas and radios. It's basically a massive modem in there. And it has a 2,000 milliamp hour battery because, as you remember in the early days of 4G, it's going to be better, I think, with 5G because 5G is still radically more power efficient by design. But you draw more juice when you use 5G. So they have that battery that you can charge with a separate USB port, or that the phone can balance out. Basically, I think it's going to add like a power pack as well.
Yeah,
right? Probably.
It'll work like their current battery packs, I assume.
On mods, and then you're going to be able to save a bit of battery life when you use 5G, and then there'll be a little 5G indicator on the bar, which is ironic because the rest of the world is going to be NR.
Is it really?
Yeah.
So it's like what we did with LTE and 4G here in the States.
I can't handle it.
Yeah, no.
That drives me nuts.
Everybody wants to put the 5G somewhere,
right? And I like your marketing. Your marketing theory. I mean, really, Qualcomm and Verizon and Moto got a lot of attention for basically saying, look, you don't have to wait till 2020 to get 5G. We're going to roll it out in 2019, and we're going to be the first. We're going to be Verizon and Moto and Qualcomm all in hand in hand. But the reality is, I think it's just a ploy to be the first, because if you think about it, who was here's a question, practical question for the listeners. Who's going to buy this? Even my early adopter tech savvy listeners.
No, they're not.
And why not, do you think? Because...
Well, one, it's not a flagship.
Exactly, because
if they're tech savvy and they're dying to get something, they're not going after this mid-range device.
Yeah, the phone that comes with it is so conflicting. Like, I can understand that the average person, it's more palatable price-wise for the average person, but in 6 months it's going to be really backwards.
Yeah.
And
you also have to wonder if they're going to come out with more Moto mod capable devices that will be able to use the 5G mod. We don't know. Yeah. And because the only thing they did, like I said for the marketing thing, is they wanted to say the words, this is the first 5G, that doesn't matter what else is around it, upgradable, blah, 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 5G phone. And we did it, right? So that was kind of their thing. And like to some degree that's accurate, and you can argue how accurate that really is. But maybe there'll be another one that'll come out after this that's a more of a flagship device that can also use the 5G mod. Yeah. Because the 5G mod is really the story here, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And so the question to me is, at that point is like, what do you do when this thing comes out in February or whatever, March or January next year? Yeah. Do you wait for the summer for them to release a new Moto Z phone that works with it? Right. That's better? Or do they launch a flagship at the same time and surprise us and call it the Moto Z 5G? Right?
Moto Z5.
Or Z5 or something, just to be harmonious with the naming? Yeah. Or is it going to be one of those situations where this is the last mod and this is the last phone? And this is because they only promised to support Moto mods for 2 years, and we're at the 2-year mark. Right. And maybe it's just, again, just pure marketing. Like 2 people are going to buy it. They're going to have 2 people on the network and they're going to be like, you've got 5G, bitches.
Proof. We did it.
I don't know. I'm so many questions. Yeah. And then there's the whole issues, and I want to know your take on this. We've already talked about how comparing the Moto Z3 Play and the Z3 as being so similar. Yep. Yet the Z3 costs $500, still is listed on Moto's site as $500 with a battery mod. That battery mod is the cheapest, simplest battery mod you can have. It doesn't have a connector to charge it separately. They went super cheap because they're bundling in it. And the bundle is lovely. Yeah. But
I do like that they gave you a mod.
It can't be costing them more than $50 retail. Right. So you remove that $50 and you get $450 for that phone. Sure. $30 difference between these two phones. I don't get it. Well, and I already said in my review of the Z3 Play on Geekspin that it's too expensive. Yeah. Comparing, you have a OnePlus 6 for $530.
That OnePlus 6 makes other $500 phones hard.
So are they going to drop the price of the Z3 Play and then piss off all the people who bought it thinking, I have a really old Moto Z that's 2 years old and it's dying, and I have this mod investment and I want to stay in the mod ecosystem, and I don't know what's coming in terms of flagship. In last year's flagship, the Z2 Force was kind of meh, so I'm going to buy a Z3 Play. And now this thing comes out and they're like, what the?
Yeah, I think the only differentiator between these two things is that one is a Verizon exclusive, right? So if you're a Verizon user right now, you didn't have a choice. You couldn't buy the Z3 Play.
You could buy it unlocked. And it works with Verizon.
Did it work with Verizon?
Absolutely. I used it
just kidding. Then never mind. So no, you're right. I don't know what else. I don't know.
And to be clear, Amazon Prime users, which a lot of us are, can get it for the Z3 Play for $450. So with the mod. So basically now that drops it to say $400, but it's still too much. Yeah. There's still not enough of a difference in specs and price between these two phones. So I really think this phone exists only to support this upcoming 5G mod, only for Verizon. So complicated.
You wonder if they were just like, that's a good point, right? Like, did they just come up with a phone because they wanted to? Because the 5G mod is what they care about, right? Yeah. It's the bragging rights. It's the, hey, we got to 5G, which, and again, super impressive. Not saying that it's not, right? It's just questionable how they launched it with this phone. But it's, did they just pick the phone just to be like, we don't, this isn't enough. Like, we have to also launch a phone with this. And I don't, or just they needed a Verizon exclusive maybe. Like Verizon needed a device that they could say was ours.
Well, considering how few devices they've had, the Z series last few years has dropped in terms of its network bundling. Like, what I'm saying? Like, you could get it on all the networks. Yeah, right.
Right. There was no exclusivity.
And then the Z3 Play comes on, it's unlocked only, not Verizon at all even. Yeah. So I'm kind of wondering like what happened there.
This might have been done to appease. Like, obviously, this is a very big partnership announcement. It's not just Motorola, right? It's Motorola, it's Verizon, it's Qualcomm. And maybe this was something to appease another, side of that coin, which like Verizon.
And that's very likely. And that's weird. And that's why, like, it just feels so half-baked. So that's why welcome to the Moto Z2. Right. That's all I can say. And so back to what you were saying earlier about the 5G mod being usable on other previous phones. Right. It is possible that they enable it to work on the Moto phone, the Z phones that were sold by Verizon. So the Z2 Force last year, the Z2 Play last year.
Yep.
I really, if they do enable it for other things,
I doubt they will.
I think they would do the Z3 Play just because it does work on Verizon.
Okay.
And then that's probably as far back as they're going to go, because I doubt that this original.
If they even do that, because I feel like part of their marketing thing is that this is the first 5G upgradable phone. But if they allow it on a device that came out before this, then technically isn't that the first 5G upgradable? You know what I'm saying? Like it's the terminology here that's very gray.
What would really crack me up is if AT&T totally beats everyone to the punch and comes
if
out
somebody just comes out with an actual 5G phone would be the end of it. Right? But they can still have their title of 5G upgradable.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd be interested. I mean, who do you think would do that? Like, so let's think of all the phone manufacturers that could pull this off. The first one that comes to mind immediately that could really compete in this space is Huawei. But of course, that's not going to happen in the US.
Not in the US.
So that's not going to happen. Yeah. So, but Qualcomm obviously could be two-faced. I'm not saying that. That's actually bad wording. I don't.
Yeah, they're not two-faced, but I
love Qualcomm. I don't mean that as them being too. I mean, just saying they could play on both sides and say,
well, it's in
let's
their best
partner with
too.
T-Mobile, AT&T, and say, and then make a phone. But who would be the phone maker? So that's the question.
I don't know.
Samsung, no.
Maybe they have the resources. Obviously, like they could do it.
LG, I don't see it.
I don't see it either.
HTC.
I don't see that either.
Who does that leave us? Sony, no way.
Sony, no way.
Let's see.
Not in the States, no way.
Apple? No.
Qualcomm's not helping Apple, obviously.
Yeah, and that's not happening.
And I don't know.
Also, Apple
who knows what Apple's doing on their own.
Apple always waits a few years for the technology to mature.
That's true.
No, so let's see. Samsung is the most
your best
likely bet. And then who else? Are we missing anyone? Moto? No. Moto could also be, quote, I'm going to use the word two-faced in quotes. Yeah. Facing in two directions using two partners is what I really meant. Could do that with AT&T and make a custom phone. Yeah. I mean, they have an exclusive with Verizon now. That's one part of the deal. Yeah. On that model of the 5G mod and the Moto mods, and now maybe they could turn around and go, here's a Moto X.
Yeah. you know, I kind of doubt that only because they don't seem like the reason the Moto mod is launching in the beginning of January is because it's not quite ready. Right? Like, they're showing it to us now, but like, honestly, they need some time.
They wouldn't let us touch it.
They wouldn't let us touch us. They wouldn't let us bring cameras into the room.
So here's the question. Were you a blue leader or a red leader yesterday?
I was red.
Okay, so that's very important. I want to know. We're going to have this conversation.
Okay, go.
I was a blue leader. In case you guys don't know what we're talking about, they separated the group of journalists into two chunks. We got blue lanyards or red lanyards, and then we all started joking about blue leader, red leader, because we're Star Wars nerds.
Totally.
So you were on the red group, I was in the blue group, and so the blue group, when we went in the Faraday cage chamber, where they quote unquote showed us a 5G demo of a beam being sent to a prototype mod receiving the beam, they did not run it live. They ran it as a recording. They ran it, and they were very upfront about it. They said, we captured this earlier in the chamber. We have a lot of to do to reset the test. Yeah. So we are just going to show you the recording we did earlier with the red team.
Because they did it live with us.
So they did live with you.
They did it live with us. So that was the recording.
I thought that they were going to tell us both the same thing, that it was the recording.
We did we did it live with the other team. Yeah. We did it live with the other team, and then we'd have to. They hope we never talk to each other.
Yeah. So, but
they did. It was live.
Considering how many PR faux pas they had yesterday, like us walking in, these phones are available, and we're like scrambling, and there's no light. Then they don't really talk about the phone during the thing. We just have the specs. Then how we went to after the lab tour. So after the on stage thing, we had a lab tour, which you talk about. They showed us a live demo of for you it was live, for me it was recorded. Right. And then they also showed us this was the stupidest thing, like this kind of made up space of like, this is what your home looks like, and this is what your car and your office, and you're like walking down the street with cardboard cutouts of people. And there was not a single mod being used or real, like it was just like this, these are the use cases. And we're like, we know the use cases. We've been talking to Qualcomm for 4 years. Like we know the use cases of 5G.
I've been trained.
We know we can get 4 gigabits per second continuous, like download 4 Game of Thrones episodes in 30 seconds. We get it just before the plane leaves at the airport, because we're always scrambled because we're flying to China for 12 hours.
Right.
You know that use case. It's good. Yeah. But the point is, it's like it was so janky. Was that for like the and I hate to say this, I was going to say USA Today, but Ed Big is way smarter than that. So it's like, is this for like, the local Chicago Tribune or something? Like,
and maybe it is. Maybe like they're doing the lowest common denominator.
Anyway,
and
after that, they had a happy hour. And you have to understand, as a pretty legitimate podcaster, I beforehand tried to get a Moto exec to be with us right now. I figured having somebody in here for 10, 15 minutes, we could grill them nicely, much nicely than we're grilling Moto right now. Right. And just, and they would not commit to it. And not because I think it's me, because I talked to everyone else. They had a hard time getting a commitment. Yeah. They did let me access an exec that I interviewed on video. The video will be linked in the podcast notes. I've got it on my YouTube channel.
I will watch that.
It is an interview with Jeff Snow, who's the head of product of innovation products. So he's he's basically heading the Moto Z and the 5G mod thing. And he's a really great guy. And he was very gracious at my tough questions. And I try to be very polite and friendly with them. I'm not trying to burn bridges. I just have so many questions. And every time we were asking questions yesterday, we were getting more questions in our heads, right? It was just crazy. So I watched that interview. But the bottom line was that I kind of had to scramble to get this lined up last minute. And so that's another kind of weird PR faux pas. It's like, why don't you line up a few slots for people to spend time and actually know that for sure they're not going to get the material they need? Mm-hmm. And then when we walked into the happy hour space, do you remember how the bags were there and people grabbed their bags?
Oh, yeah.
And then halfway through, I was about halfway through because the second group came in later and they wouldn't let us grab the bags. So you guys are like with your bags starting to unbox your phones. Some of you.
I didn't have a bag yet.
But some of them were. And I'm like, I looked at the PR person and I said, hey, look, if they're unboxing the phones, I'm going to unbox my phone right now. Right. I don't want them to have an advantage. Yeah. Like, that's another PR. Like, how did you not think of this? Like, so they actually went and grabbed the bags and phones from people. Oh,
I was going to say, I saw that part. I saw people... phones being taken away from people.
Seriously?
And I was like, okay.
Like, do you know how this works? Like,
I was happy about it because I didn't have a phone.
I understand that it's like a startup that's, I advise these companies, so I get it. Like, I understand when it's a startup from China, they have a new product, they don't know how to do PR, they didn't consult someone like me and pay me money to help them out. Right. But when it's like Moto, like, how can they not get their PR together? It was just mind-blowing to me. But anyway... maybe maybe it's just higher ups. Sometimes it's just you don't know.
Or sometimes things happen, right?
Sometimes things happen. Anyway, but it all worked out. I just want to say I'm super grateful that Moto PR got me. Eva and Alex were awesome. They got me access to Jeff. Got this interview. It'll be interesting. Watch it. But the thing is, it's just like after that. Once we got some content, it was a little more chill, but we still have a lot of questions.
And we still do, but that's okay.
And I think
we figured it out.
I think most of the questions are around Z3 versus Z3 Play positioning in the market and pricing and features, and about the fact that it's kind of a mid-range phone now, really, the Z3, and not a flagship, and that it's an exclusive Verizon and the 5G mod coming later, and whether, so early adopters, I don't think are going to want this phone today because they're looking for a flagship. They're going to want to buy OnePlus 6. Right. And then the average customer walking a Verizon store, I don't see them picking up the Z3 today with the promise of 5G in 6 months. They don't even care about 5G.
They don't even know what it is.
They don't know what it is, and even the best marketing campaign, if they start launching a whatever the word is, ton of ads.
Crap ton.
Crap ton of ads. If they start doing crap tons of ads on TV and how magical 5G is going to be, I could see them capturing some people. Yeah. But then I still don't know as an average customer if I would want to spend the money on something that's only a promise to do something in the future with an additional part that is going to cost me more money probably. Yeah. I mean...
Yeah, we don't know what the mod's going to cost as well.
Verizon might subsidize completely built into the 5G plan,
help, right?
I mean, at this point, you're right. It's marketing and bragging rights, but it's really interesting. And it's also maybe explains why they wouldn't commit to answering a lot of questions ahead of the briefing. Because, I mean, I was like, okay, can you give me an idea of what I'm expecting? Like, how many devices so I can, like, plan my time and how many videos I'm going to upload? Like you, right? You probably had these questions.
I did.
And it's like, nope, nothing. They wouldn't say anything. And then, so we all started asking ourselves questions. Is this phone gonna suck? And I don't think this phone sucks if you take it.
No, I like the phone. I've been using it.
If you take it like in its
face value, right?
Face value for the price, it's a great phone.
Yes,
it's just not what we were expecting.
Right.
And I mean, The camera seems to be pretty mad, though. I still think that they could have done a little better, even at that price point.
I'll do a comparison for sure on the channel. But
at that price point, you can still do better. Yeah. So anyway, that's the story.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is some good to this, right? Like, the good that's come out of this, and again, like we're not just like bashing them. Like, it's just confusing, right?
It's
and like
very
the marketing, and I think that's probably what it is. It's the marketing thing. They wanted to go out and say it, and everybody wants the bragging rights. It's the same thing they have with 4G, and every G this happens. But the thing that I do think the silver lining here is the fact that, like, because they've said this, because Motorola and Verizon have all been like, first 5G upgradable, whatever, right?
Yeah.
It's going to push all of the other carriers to move a lot faster.
Oh, and the manufacturers. Everybody's going to have to move a lot quicker. You know, even Intel to try to compete with Qualcomm if they will. I don't know if they can, if they can't. But you know what I mean? Like, all of the companies that are a part of this are going to try and push this as hard now as they can. And so I think that's going to benefit all of the consumers, no matter what this device is, no matter what the 5G mod is. 5G is going to come faster, which is exciting to me. And I think there's another story that we haven't really talked about, but China is pushing really hard as a country to roll out 5G, not just for bragging rights, because they would, but also because, they have a huge population, spectrum's at a premium, all that other stuff. And they have Huawei, who is technically probably the only company that can compete with Qualcomm right now in 5G in terms of expertise. Yep. And so it's also a ploy of, I'm not going to say political, but I think there's a strategic advantage to be, hey, the US got 5G first, right? Like, I think it doesn't matter whether the potential competitor is China or Europe or Japan or whatever. I'm just saying, like, another nation, another part of the world getting 5G first would not look good for companies like Moto, Qualcomm, and Verizon, who have traditionally been one of the first to adopt anything.
All of these things,
So I think you're right. Maybe it wasn't even marketing at that point. It's just a strategic move.
Yeah, it's a PR campaign. Whether it's on a macro level or
trickled into marketing.
Correct.
That then trickled into weird product that we cannot understand because we're early adopter tech savvy nerds.
Yeah.
And that trickled into consumers scratching their heads even more than we are.
Yeah. Right.
Or not even caring.
Right.
Which is probably what's going to happen.
Because again, they need to be educated on what 5G is.
Wow. What a story.
It's good.
It's pretty good.
Again,
so you've played with the
phone.
So I unboxed the phone this morning. It's in my pocket, but I have to set it up.
Yeah.
I'm going to do that at the airport.
I did it on the trolley ride.
Tell me
yesterday
quickly what your first impressions are, because I know you played very briefly the Z3 Play as well.
I did, yeah. So I did my walkthrough on it.
Does it feel exactly the same to you? I mean,
it feels very similar.
Cosmetically, it's the same.
It feels very similar. And again, with Motorola going for the 835 in this one.
I mean, it's fast.
It's fast, but I don't know if I see too much of a difference in speed, which is, again, maybe something to their point of being like, you know what, like our version of Android is very stripped down and great. And I love that about Motorola. It's very snappy always. Yeah. And so, we don't necessarily need the highest end device. Absolutely. I think they only put the highest end device in here because they wanted the modem. Yeah. They don't really care about the processor. And so anyway, it feels very similar. I do like the device, if we're honest. Like, I really do.
No, I love.
We're trying to think of this in a macro, like how does this work in the industry? But like, it's a great phone.
If you rewrite my review on Geekspin, which will be linked in the show notes, of the Z3 Play, you'll see that my only issues with this phone was really the price point.
And that OnePlus exists.
And the OnePlus exists, which is part of the price point. And then the fact that the camera really, the G6, right? The Moto G6 at $250 has just a slightly lesser camera that is maybe 99% of the Z3 Play's camera. And at that price point, it makes sense. It's a perfectly fine camera. But at $500, the camera on the Z3 Play is just not good enough. But in every other way, performance, whatever else, I had no issue.
It's super snappy.
It uses a 636, which is what I thought.
600.
So, I mean, this is actually very interesting. The 636 is a very recent processor. Came out, I think, in November. So now that tells you something, right? The 835 is probably just like a touch bit better, really, if you think about it.
Well, I would say it's probably better gaming and that kind of stuff. But and that's something I have not tested yet, right? Like, I have not compared the Z Play versus this one.
Does it feel snappy? Does great. Do you feel like you're using a mid-range phone? Or do you feel like you're using a flagship?
I feel like performance-wise, I feel like I'm using a flagship. I have a hard time with the whole form factor of all the Moto Mod devices kind of feeling old because
of that legacy.
Well, because they have to have that, right?
Yeah.
Like in order for the engineers to continue making mods, they can't change the form factor too much.
Do yourself a favor. I know you don't probably have time and bandwidth to look at lesser phones, but get yourself a Moto G6.
No, I've always loved the G6.
Glass sandwich.
Yeah,
it's like it looks like a freaking the Moto X4 last year.
Yeah.
$250.
No, it's great.
And it's narrower and taller. It's like kind of, you know how the G7 feels so good because it's 19 by 9.5 by 9.
Yeah. It's that, yeah.
It's that.
I like
it's
that.
honestly my favorite Moto phone this year.
Yeah.
Like,
no, and honestly,
tops.
like I think every time if I recommend a phone, like just to give Moto some kudos after we've just bashed them a bit, but like they're not bash, you know what I mean. But like their lower end line is hard to beat.
Oh,
at that price range, they kill it.
They win it.
Every time. Every year they kill it, and you're like, oh yeah, that's great.
Okay.
Yeah, but like, so honestly, like, and I keep saying this as we're walking around, and like even before they announced this phone, and I was sitting there and I was just wishful thinking, like maybe it'll be a flagship with no mods. Because why can't they have both? I want a Moto phone that is just beautiful and is a proper flagship, and I don't need the mods, and that's just because me, I don't need them, I don't want them. That would be amazing.
Thanks for bringing that up, because actually when I thought we were going to get, I thought that the 5G mod and the Z3, I thought it was going to be a Z3 Force,
right?
But the Z3 we got, that, right? Which I'm not going to call the Z2, it was what we were going to get, but that was just going to be. More like, here's the phone. I knew it was going to be, here's the phone, the Moto mod comes later, but I was really going to be like, I didn't think Qualcomm and Verizon would be on the table with this announcement. It was just like really pie in the sky. Mm-hmm. And then, just marketing bragging rights for Moto only, which really was more marketing in the end turned out to be a three
all three
partnership.
Of them wanted to be a say it.
But I also thought we were going to see that magical Moto 1 we've seen advertised.
I haven't seen much of that, but I keep
mid-range.
Yeah, we keep seeing stuff like that.
Super sexy.
I want that.
And it's
I was excited that might have happened.
That was what I was most excited about, honestly, because I wanted a different form factor. Yeah. I was like, wait, take all the goodness of the Moto G6 and crank it up a notch.
Yeah, give me proper specs.
Make it $400.
Give me a good camera. And I'm happy.
And sell it as a sexy Moto.
Yeah, I don't know why they can't have two flagships, right?
And Android One.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So I was like and then none of that happened. So I guess those are going to be
unless that's coming later, yeah.
I don't think you're going to see another event. I mean,
IFA?
Maybe IFA. But Moto doesn't generally launch abroad.
No, I know.
So I think this is, Moto has like an event every 4 years, it seems, here in Chicago or something. So I know it was 2 years last time.
I don't even.
I don't even think the Z2 Force was launched here I think it was in New York.
Yeah.
I feel like.
It was.
And the Z3 Play was in New York.
It was in the West Village,
right? Because you went to that. Yeah. Anyway, so listen, we've covered most of what I wanted to cover. I want to actually talk to you about something else because we do have a bit of time left. Because I try to keep the podcast around now, so about 20 minutes. This thing here that I brought up earlier, this monstrosity here.
What is this?
Have you not heard about this?
No, I haven't.
All right, well, let me fill you in.
Yeah, show me.
So the Android police folks reported this first. Of course, is David, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
David Roddock, our good friends.
Yeah.
The folks at Turing Phone. Okay, actually, this is not a link to the thing. The people at Turing have come out with something new. Let's actually find out. It's called the HubblePhone. And it's insane. Look at this thing.
What the?
I'll bring you to the website. If my MacBook decides to actually load something. There we go. So HubblePhone is this concept phone from the people at Turing. Mm-hmm. And it is kind of insane.
I mean, it's insane is the right word.
Like all Turing things.
Yeah.
It is...
It's kind of cool. Maybe?
It's insane.
What is it? I don't even understand what I'm
going to show you the
though.
specs.
Yeah, I was like, what am I looking at?
Well, let's see if we can see
it. Just looks like an alien.
There you go.
Transcoder.
So right. So it's a clamshell phone. Like it's like a flip phone.
Yeah.
You know that transforms like those pistol point cameras. Those pistol grip camcorders used to.
Oh yeah.
So it's like that, but it's all covered curved AMOLED plastic displays.
Yeah.
Each panel of the hinge has a Snapdragon 855 that does not exist yet.
Right.
And RAM and storage and a SIM card and LTE radio. One of them has 5G NR on the others on the thing.
Okay. And
then there's a optical zoom camera in the hinge.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Kind of like those camcorders used to be. And in total, there's like something like so here are the Here are the camera modules. Look at variable aperture f1.52. Basically, they took all the best specs from any device and
just put them all together.
With
dual pixel autofocus.
2 times optical zoom, and then like there's like
3D
notches.
light
This is like
I still don't understand what this thing looks like when you use it.
Well,
all the photos are so.
Nobody does. There's 3 screens. There's one.
Yeah, I don't understand.
One is two-sided and one is one-sided, and see what? Look like there are some renders.
So wait, this is a screen.
Yeah.
And that's a screen and that's a screen. I got you. Okay. Yeah, it's covered in screens.
Correct. It's 4 panels of screen.
I don't think this is going to be
real. Never. And it's got a...
I'm just kidding. Let's keep watching.
Here's the best part. It's IP68.
Yeah, of course it is.
And it's got a scroll wheel.
Oh, beautiful.
How do you do that?
No, you don't.
You don't.
You don't.
Because grains of sand will get in there. Anyway, but what's cool is that it's 2 separate phones, basically.
Yeah. No,
the AMOLED is curved and goes over.
Of course it does, because when you're making a make-believe product, there's no restrictions on physics.
But of course it's got 5G and R.
Yeah, of course it does.
And look, you can use it as a flip phone.
It's not real.
So these screens, of course not. These screens are 4 inches.
Please click on the full specs.
So by the way, HubblePhone.
Oh, here's in a hand. I like it.
So it's not very big. Like it's still a flip phone, basically.
I want this to be real.
So
but
technology,
it's
look, all the bands, of course. Why not
give it all the bands?
Especially in our bands. Like, why don't we get why don't we get 28, 26, and 39 gigahertz? Because like we can put freaking beamforming,
7,000 modules,
like millimeter wave antennas everywhere, and then can do GPRS and Edge.
Well, that's important. You need a fallback.
So announced, available Q1 2020.
Oh, yeah, come on.
Please. Just stop. It's like Turing. They haven't delivered anything, have they?
I don't think so, right?
So upper deck, main deck, here are the sizes.
I like they call them decks.
They're 6 millimeters thick, each decks. And then the main cylindrical body cam has this. So hybrid glass PMMA, titanium alumide frame, whatever that is, liquid metal hinge. We know liquid metal exists.
What is liquid metal?
It's a very strong,
like the Terminator. Like
turning
into a puddle and then coming back up.
The idea is that imagine a metal.
Can the phone do that?
Imagine a metal that is memory. So if you bend it, it comes back. It exists. It's actually a thing.
Oh, interesting.
Some laptops use it for hinges and stuff.
Interesting.
So it's a metal that is called liquid because technically it's constantly in a liquid state, but it's so viscous that to us it feels like a solid.
Oh, interesting.
But the
molecules are separated enough to be called liquid.
Here's something you might not know. Any piece of glass you see in your life, anywhere, that's vertical, is slowly getting thinner at the top and getting thicker at the bottom over decades. Yeah, right? Wow. But we're talking micrometers.
Yeah.
But it's because it's in a liquid form.
It's slowly liquid.
So that's why if you look at really old buildings like in Paris, and they have original windows from 1700 something, you'll see the window. There's a weird optical thing where the window is thicker at the bottom and on the edges too, because it's attached at the edges, so it's kind of flowing downward, inward.
Yeah, weird.
So modern technology with tempered glass and stuff that is immeasurable, right? But it's so the idea, imagine a metal that's even slower at flowing.
Interesting.
And you make it so that it's very strong at impact, right? Yeah. But it's also malleable and can memorize its shape and come back.
That's kind of cool.
I think that's what liquid metal is. It's actually a real thing.
No,
it's very expensive. Yeah. It's like usually there's a part like this big. I'm showing an inch here on the microphone.
Right.
In case you can't see. All right, so
fine. Then you might as well put that in this
AMOLED IP68 AMOLED of the kazoo.
Yeah, of course.
Upper deck, top deck, lower deck resolution. So full HD on the displays. They're 5.4 inches both, which and pretty much bezel-less. There's notches for all the cameras and stuff. Mm-hmm. And so coated hybrid glass PMMA, I don't know what that is. Nope. I believe it might be the thing that Samsung just announced. The display that can be poked but doesn't break.
Oh, okay.
But I thought that was a plastic thing.
Yeah, I thought it was too, so I don't know.
So Turing OS, which is based on FreeBSD or Android 9, because Android 9.
Yeah, right.
Android P, right? Obviously.
Well, by 2020, there'll be another one, won't there?
Or Sailfish 3, if you want Sailfish, of course.
I would love Sailfish on my
And then Snapdragon 855 and an X50 modem for 5G.
Isn't Qualcomm mad that they wrote, this is what we're going to have in this?
Like Turing cares. These guys, they just make crap up out of their butt. And then we've got Yeah, we've got a bunch more stuff here. Oh, each deck has 8 gigs of RAM and a processor and 256 gigs of storage. No, of course.
Yeah. Wait, look, camera size, go.
All right,
main cam.
60 megapixels.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Why not 60 megapixels? And then so it's a variable aperture and 15 times optical zoom. So it's a telescopic zoom, you know? Of course,
no doubt.
Why not? And then look at how many cameras there are. Dual 12 megapixel, dual 12 megapixel.
So there's 5.
5 in addition to the main 60 megapixel.
So 6.
Because you need that.
I want this phone.
Yeah, everybody wants this phone. You know what?
It's going to be under $500
sorry. I just want you whatever that phone is called. You HubblePhone folks missed the mark because it does not have Wi-Fi AD.
AD.
Yeah,
they should have put that in there. Come on,
that's the first big omission here.
Now I don't want it.
No, that's it. I'm done. And come on, USB 3, only USB 3.1. You could have done
not even Gen 2.
Thunderbolt 3.
Yeah, true. Thunderbolt 4 by 2020, whatever.
Oh, look,
make some more
dual
stuff
battery. So 2800 on the thinner part and 3300 on the thicker part. Yeah. Here are all the specs. Here are all the views.
I mean, it's beautiful.
I mean, the thing is gorgeous.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you had like a wank-off dream and you came up with, and you're 12 years old and you came up with a phone, this would be the phone.
Yeah, totally.
I'm surprised you missed this.
I did miss this. I had no idea.
Ruddock went on a... Like, you gotta read it.
I will.
It was an epic tirade
cool.
about this. So, you know...
I'm going to make a phone now, too. I'm just going to draw some specs. And,
I think you should. Like, you should hire somebody to do a... Yeah.
Yeah, all you got to... I mean, Upwork. I'll go on Upwork. I'll find somebody like a freelance
That's
website.
what I was going to say. Get somebody to do like
just
a super cool design.
Make my cool schematic, make it look real.
I'm so on board
Kickstarter starts tomorrow.
Do it. Do it. I will help you with the Kickstarter part. Because, you know, I did Pebbles Kickstarter, so I can do it.
Perfect.
Man, seriously, like, these guys... Look, I don't want to... Look... It's one thing to promise if you don't deliver ultimately, and this is more outlandish than anything they've ever promised, right? Turing in the early days did promise something that I think they delivered one phone and it was really late and it was really flawed. But like, I don't have a problem with new companies. Like Nextbit came in. Remember Nextbit came in and they slayed. It was awesome. We loved them. They got acquired by Razer. Yeah. Those guys.
Now they're making the Razer phone, which is also
those guys nailed it. They sold a startup. They started it. It was done. It was well done. They did it well. Yeah. You know, we can argue Essential not so successful. That's just two sides of the same coin in many ways.
I still think they did a good job in a lot of ways.
Oh, absolutely. But I'm just saying, like, they didn't get bought. They didn't succeed, right? As well. I mean, I think they sold more Essential phones than Nextbits.
Yeah, probably. Well, once they lower the price.
Robbins. Yeah, absolutely.
Once they lower the price.
And I'm looking forward, I'm hoping that they can either get acquired or survive and do another phone. I know now it's a little bit unscripted today. So did you play with the Essential? Did you have one? Do you still have it? Do you like it?
I love it. I love the build. I love that it's different. I like that notch. And let's be real, it was the first phone.
It was the first phone with
properly the first phone with a notch.
I kind of like to think of it more as a whole.
Yeah, you're right. It is more. It's like a Cyclops eye. But it's a beautiful, proper device.
Absolutely.
And for $500 now, it's not bad. It's just the camera. If that camera was good,
I haven't installed software update in a while.
But I love that. I haven't either.
Some stuff.
I'm sure they fixed some stuff.
I'm kind of wanting to revisit.
Yeah, maybe we should do like a camera comparison redo of that versus this Z3 versus like all the other $500 phones, the OnePlus. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll put that on my channel at some point.
It's kind of crazy.
Got a bunch of camera comparisons coming up, so I might as well add that to it.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think we should remember that there are a lot of our readers and listeners, viewers who are not able to buy a new phone every year necessarily.
Oh, of course.
Or maybe they are at the tail end of their 1 year with a phone.
Right.
And, they're probably a little sad that we're not talking about the phone that they totally jonesed about back in a year ago. I think for me, what stood out about Essential was not so much it was Andy Rubin, because if you look at Nextbit, they had a bunch of Google folks there, and they had the guy from HTC, Scott Croyle, who's a friend of mine actually. He's one of the best designers in the business. That's why the Razer phone looks the way it is. That's why the Robin looks the way it is. He's the guy who brought us the HTC One M7. I mean, props, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not so much Andy Rubin. And their team is great, so was NextBits. But it's more like the Essential phone, if you hold it today now, still feels better than almost anything out there, short of maybe the iPhone 10. And I mean in form factor, in size.
Yeah. Like the way the screen is and everything. Yeah.
And height.
And I think premium-wise, it feels better.
The ceramic finish, the titanium.
Yeah.
I got the white one.
Oh yeah, I don't have the white one. I have the black one.
Dope.
Did they ever come out with the green and whatever?
Yeah, you could buy them. There's probably 10 people out there with them.
Yeah, no, I love that one. That's
I think, David, you could probably squeeze one out of them.
Yeah, maybe.
Because you're David.
This is true.
No, I should rephrase it. You're the unlocker.
Cue logo sound with the lock.
I've been joking around about doing a death metal unboxing channel.
Yes, I know. We've talked about it. I was the one that was like, you need to do this because I think it's brilliant.
So I want you guys to vote on Twitter. Go on Twitter once you listen to this podcast.
Yeah.
And I'll try to put a poll up before the podcast goes out. Vote whether I should start a sub-channel of my YouTube or even convert my entire YouTube channel into death metal unboxings.
Commit. Death metal, and the shots need to change that fast.
Yeah.
It would be really good. Yeah.
But I need somebody to.
It's going to take a long time.
I need somebody to write the music. Yeah, that's the problem. It needs to be unique music.
Anybody else on Twitter that has a death metal band that would like to submit some samples?
I have an idea.
Please submit them to me.
Do you guys remember Flaw, the band that was given a van recently by what's his name? The guy who does the late night show. I'm completely blanking.
Which one?
Well, I can't remember. That's
Cogen or
no, it wasn't. It was
Jimmy.
No, not Jimmy. Not Conan.
Another Jimmy.
No.
There's two Jimmys.
Come on. How can I not remember who it was?
I don't know.
He had his own show before. What was it?
Letterman.
Not Letterman. Letterman is on Netflix.
Leno.
Not Leno.
This is it. This is the extent of mine.
There's a few more. Colbert. Thank you.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I don't know if you saw it. If you watch Colbert, he had this band on recently called Flaw, which is a death metal band. Or maybe they're not death metal. They're a metal band. I don't know what kind of metal.
Yeah,
they look like a bunch of cool guys.
Yeah.
And Flaw, I got a van given to them by Colbert.
Wait,
because,
why do they need a van?
You'll have to watch. They tried to crowdfund a van, and they came 2,000 short of their goal. And
so they didn't get it.
And so Colbert used that twice to illustrate failure.
Interesting.
On his show. And so finally he realized the first time he did, he thought that would bring them back, that enough people would watch and support them and help.
Yeah.
But they still didn't meet their goal by like $50.
Oh no.
So he said to his audience, you suck. Seriously, you suck.
How hard was this to do?
And then but I don't want to spoil it for you. That's why I'm not telling you what the context was, but watch this Google Colbert and Flaw, F-L-A-W, and you'll see the video of the van, and then in there there's context as to why it came to that. But eventually he said that because he felt really bad for them, he bought them a van.
Yeah.
With the catch that, Letterman style, remember how old Letterman shows, they had to do a little skit with him, right? Yeah. Where he outfitted the van for them live on TV.
Nice.
There was even a grandma as part of the outfit. You'll see, it's great.
Oh, great.
And she rocked. She really enjoyed the death metal.
Oh, that's amazing.
Or the metal, or whatever the metal is. Right. So what I think I should do is talk to Flaw and see if they'll do my songs.
Oh, yeah.
And then find a good editor, because I don't think I can do this.
You're going to need an editor for too many clicks.
So if you guys are listening to the podcast, I'm willing to collaborate. Let's find a good editor and a good death metal composer.
Yeah, done.
And let's do death metal unboxings.
Do it.
Because that would be the best.
I would love that.
I think that we're going to give Louis a run for his money. Lou, if you're listening, I love you. But you're screwed. This is it.
Yeah,
this is the future.
10 million subscribers.
Jesus. Trying to think if there's any other phone news this week. We're getting close. I still want to talk about a few more things. What are the phones you've been using in the last little bit that really have stood out for you? OnePlus 6, I suppose.
OnePlus 6 is great. It's always great.
Do you have all three of them? Or four or five?
No.
Which colors do you have?
I have black, whatever, the one they initially sent. I want the red one.
How did they not send you a red one?
It's a good question.
I have one right here.
Let them know. It's literally in your pocket?
In my pocket.
You're just going to rub this in my face now?
No, you can play with it. Take it off the cover if you want.
It's such a good red. It's like a candy apple red.
It is a gorgeous red.
A beautiful red.
I know, I love it.
But other than that, I think the P20 Pro I keep playing with because I love that camera.
Well, it is. It is.
And night mode. I just like playing when we've had this conversation. I call
full
it.
disclosure, obviously, I was with Huawei in Europe, as you know, early June.
As was I.
And so was David and Fisher and a bunch of other wonderful
people. Yeah.
And we really had, I have to say, like, I've always been a big fan of the P20 Pro because I'm a big fan of mobile photography, and I take a phone like that seriously, whereas a lot of people might dismiss it because it's just too exotic, right? Especially for the US.
Yes.
But I think that I feel that we were all kind of like, this is a good phone. But when we finally got to do this tour and meet the people from Leica and the people from Huawei who collaborate with the people from Leica, it gave me a whole new understanding and dimension how serious these people are about this.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like, I knew it wasn't just a gimmick name that they've thrown on there since the P10.
Right.
P9.
Yeah.
But I feel like, and the fact that they've updated the camera several times and improved it since we got it, to me,
it was already decent.
Yeah. So to me, I think this is definitely one of my favorites. Speaking of, I have a P20 as well, and I've just received the Honor 10, which is in my other pocket, which is a really shiny phone as well. Wait, which pocket is that in?
I was going to say,
it's the one recording right now. I've got actually a backup recorder.
Oh, that's the Honor 10 doing it.
The Honor 10.
God,
so the Honor 10, what's interesting is, in case you don't know, you can't buy it in the US, but you can get it for, like the P20. You can get it from Europe.
Yeah.
400 euros, 466 US dollars, last I checked.
Okay.
So it puts up there with OnePlus, the Moto Z3, Z2, Z3, Z2, Z something. And it takes everything you love about the P20 and adds a headphone jack.
Oh, yeah.
And
is the camera as good, though?
The crazy, beautiful finish.
That's my question. Yeah, I know it's pretty.
But the camera, okay, so here's what's interesting. It's got the same AI and software engine as the P20, minus the night mode.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to give, and minus the Leica branding.
Right.
But here's where it's a little disappointing. Instead of, as you know, the P20 doesn't have the 40 megapixel, right? It doesn't have the zoom. No. But it has the same monochrome lens, 20 megapixel 1.6, and it has a 12 megapixel 1.8 color with 1.55 micron pixels. Okay. So instead of doing the 40 megapixel and binning
to 2,
it does 1.55 on 12,
so
which is fine.
Yeah.
No zoom lens, and so it takes really great pictures in exactly the same software, night mode, the whole shebang. And it does even hybrid zoom, even though it doesn't have, like, I don't know.
Right. It uses the software.
Probably uses the monochrome camera as well. Now that I've said that, the Honor 10 only has a 16 megapixel main camera with f/over 1.8 and a 24 megapixel monochrome with f/over 1.8. So it's a bit of a downgrade because those pixels are probably not as big.
Yeah, they're definitely not as big.
And I'm definitely seeing a difference in low light. But I think the biggest thing that kills it for me is if they had put the night mode with that anti-shake, then that thing would be baller.
Yeah, because that night mode alone is a great feature. Like,
that's
I use
really
that
it, right?
all
I mean,
the time.
you use it in daylight.
I do. I love it. It's my crazy HDR.
David totally got me to try that out, and I don't know why I didn't even think about it. And even in daytime, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah. Yeah, I just did a whole video actually on this. On like why the P20 Pro is the best low light camera.
I will link to it.
I appreciate it, but it's
in the notes.
And then when we went to the pixel binning and we went through all the stuff in the night mode is one of the things. Like, I spend a decent amount of time just on night mode because it's amazing.
You did a great video vlog of your vlog series of us.
I am trying to vlog. Yes, that is a thing that's trying to happen.
Of us making food, which was danger. At least for me, I always light something on fire. Thankfully, it didn't happen.
You didn't.
Well, I didn't. Nobody let me near the cooking part.
That was probably the best idea.
Honestly, I'll be honest with you, and I can see it in the video you made. I was very hungry and tired by the time we got there.
You were a little hungry,
And by the time we were served food, I think I was like about to pass out.
Yeah.
So I probably wasn't in the best of states during this thing. And I tried to take a step back and kind of let you guys do your thing. I mean, there are some people in the team that were super into it. So I was like, let them have fun.
Yeah. That's and I just filmed it. It's basically what ended up happening. It was super fun though. It was.
I think that's why I liked your videos, because it really showed what we did in very kind of short and concise and cleanly edited. It must have taken you for a long time to edit. You probably
forever.
Like, how much did you record? Like 2 hours?
So the problem is I'm new to vlogging. I've never vlogged, and so I'm trying to do that series, and I recorded every day while we were there.
Wow.
So I did a vlog every day. They didn't get released every day because like it was impossible for me to edit them. I have mad respect for any vloggers out there, especially daily ones. And I didn't know how I was doing. Like we're so used to filming the way that we film, like our tech stuff. So it's very hard to film a vlog. But I was able to do it. I mean, I even vlogged today. Like or yesterday's thing. So that's
this
going
is
live.
Happening?
So I'm going to try to do one a week. But I don't want to just vlog.
High fives.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's really hard. But I'm trying. I'm getting better, I think.
So now you know
how so they can actually see if they want
we will.
The whole Motorola thing. Because I did my travel to get here. I did the whole event that we were talking about, so they can see some. Yeah, and the other thing too is like I've liked this, even if like I don't, whatever. Not that many people watching because they don't know me as a vlogger, but like it's fun just to relive like our trip and like our day, and like all of us watch them, and just because it's fun.
Well, that's my point. It's like for me, usually when I come back from the trip, I go on a like evening of YouTube binging, and I watch everybody else's videos.
Yeah, same, right?
Because I haven't had time to catch up. I haven't watched a YouTube video in 4 days. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, no, me
I'm
either.
like, except for my own, of course.
Yeah, right.
So anyway, I will post links to your night mode video and to the vlog series. Do you have a playlist for that?
I do have
perhaps?
a playlist.
Awesome,
I'll
great.
give you that, yeah.
And then I will, and then we'll keep an eye on the show notes for my Honor 10 unboxing. I've got a bunch of other unboxings that you'll see on the channel. Of course, the Z3 unboxing, my interview with Jeff Snow of Moto,
I see that.
and of course, I just got an Alcatel One X, the Android Go phone, $100 phone.
Yeah.
It's janky and plastic as hell, as heck.
$100.
But it's $100 and it's Android Go, and I wanted to try Android Go.
Yeah, let me know how that is.
I will probably have a podcast about that with someone at some point.
Cool.
David, do you want to tell folks where they can find you if they don't know who you are?
Yeah.
God forbid.
No, I appreciate it. You can find me at youtube.com/TheUnlockr. There's an E missing in the word unlocker because that was cool 10 years ago when I started. Flickr was coming out around the same time. And also TheUnlockr.com spelled the same way.
Cool. And on Twitter, you are?
TheUnlockr. I'm TheUnlockr on everything. Yeah.
Okay, good.
It's one of the benefits of doing this for 10 years.
Super.
You get all the handles.
Yeah. And that's how you do it. I did not get my handle on YouTube, so I had to pick another handle. But really, it's nice because they let me use my Google Plus name, which is my full name spelled out.
Yeah, perfect.
So you can type.
So you can always find you.
Yeah, you type youtube.com/Miriam Jouar. Spell it out properly. Good luck. With a Miriam with a Y, I'm going to give you a hint. And you'll find my YouTube channel. Of course, it'll be linked in the show notes. You guys know where to find me otherwise. It's Tank Girl, like the comic book character without the vowels. TNKGRL on Twitter, on Instagram. And of course, I'm on Facebook. You search by name, and on YouTube. And then subscribe to the YouTube channel, please. It's not a huge channel, but I have a steady growth of subscribers, and I'm close to 10,000. And I want to get to that 10,000 so I can get that little thing, whatever it is they send you. So please help. Please tell your friends. Like the videos. I will really consider doing the death metal unboxings channel if I can.
I think that should be the reward for getting 10,000.
Right now, yeah, exactly. Thank you. Right now, please try and help me grow the channel if you're listening. Really, really pump me out there. I know that the videos are not as polished as what the rest of the folks I do, but remember, I have a full-time job in addition to being a tech reporter or blogger or whatever you want to call it. So the other thing is I want to thank our sponsor. We have a sponsor, Audible.com. They're pretty awesome. They are helping us by just, if you click on the link in the show notes, you'll support the podcast. And it's audibletrial.com/mobiletech. That's audibletrial.com/mobiletech. Audible is really the platform for audiobooks. If you like audiobooks, this is where you want to go. If you drive around and commute or on the train or in a car or whatever, you can't necessarily read because you're like packed in sardines in the bus or whatever. On the
subway in New York.
You're driving, you have to actually pay attention to the road. Oh, God forbid.
Right.
And so audible.com is going to be there for you.
Yeah,
you do. Yeah. There you go. Endorsed by the Unlockr himself. Perfect. And so stay tuned. We'll have another show next week. I got a pretty cool guest as well. And thanks for tuning in, and see you soon. Cheers, everybody.
This has been the Mobile Tech Podcast with Tank Girl, proudly presented by worldpodcasts.com. You can visit us online at mobiletechpodcast.com.